I still feel so close to her. I never want to put her down.
We do not always get to choose what we do.
I love this scene, but it does foreshadow the entire story.
This love story that we all see.
Certainly the kind of love that I would hope for. That's the most important element of storytelling. There are fundamental human elements that cut to our core, and that's what makes us feel less alone. That's what gives us hope.
Your heart is why!
So the writers really took a big chance on me because thank you so much for having me. I'm happy to be here.
How has it been for you this year so far? I know we are already in October. It's crazy. But how has it been for you?
Well, this game has definitely been the highlight of my year. It's been a slow year, as it is, I think, for everyone, but this has been just the highlight of a lifetime. And so it, stands alone as making this year a really, really great one for me.
Yeah, I could totally see that. And it's very cool to see how much, I look at your Instagram and I love how much you love taking portraits. And it's really cool to see the styles and the soft glows in some of the photos. I love that. Where do you get this kind of like the passion of kind of like doing self-portraits and, making sure that it's not all post-production, like it's all in camera and making sure that it looks as good as possible?
Oh my gosh, I love portraiture. I love taking pictures of humans. When I travel, it's my favorite way to remember someplace I've been, to take a portrait with some sort of like landscape that is reminiscent of the feeling that place gave me. And it's always a fun experiment. So I think what you're referring to, I was in Greece this summer with my family, and we visited 4 different islands in Greece, and it was incredible. I tried really hard to find little moments where I could sneak away and take an hour for myself to do a little bit of like creative portraiture, just because this is a project I enjoy doing. And each time the experience is completely different. So you're working in a new space, you have no control over the lighting, like you have very limited control over the wind and the weather. So the glow that you're talking about is actually coming from the sea foam that was being blown by the wind into my camera lens and creating this like hazy ambient glow, because it was so windy that I really could not clean the lens every 2 minutes. And so as a result, like, it just created this beautiful effect. Thank you for noticing.
Yes, I like those effects. I'm like, yeah, I do that. Not in camera. I do that in post-production on Photoshop, I suppose. So like, I'm like, that's cool. I just like those things because it just looks natural, and I like that aspect. So yeah, that was very cool to see how naturally it just came to be. So you're just a natural in that case, I guess.
Well, adding it in post is a talent and a skill all on its own. So I have respect for that too.
Another thing that I love about your like life in general is you love dancing. I'm not a professional dancer in any way, but I like dancing. I am wondering, like, where did you like even like had this passion for dancing in general?
My mom was an actor and a dancer her whole life. And so she started me out when I was really, really young. I've been dancing since I was 3. And I've always loved it. It's been part of me as long as I can remember. And yeah, I don't know myself without it.
I would just want to say congratulations on, first of all, the launch of the game, Mafia The Old Country. And at the same time, congratulations on the game being nominated for Best Storytelling at Golden Joystick Awards. So congratulations on both ends.
Wait, no one told me that happened. Thank you so much. That's great news.
Well, there it is. Breaking news for you for today. Like, yeah, I did get nominated for.
That.
Yeah, I did get nominated for Best Storytelling.
Yeah. And again, for the ones in the back. It was nominated for Best Storytelling at the Golden Joystick Awards.
Yes, it has been nominated. It's amazing.
I mean, that doesn't surprise me. It's the writers. I mean, everyone did an incredible job, but the story is beautiful. It's really, really, it's heartbreaking and it's beautiful.
What do you remember, like, of this audition that you might have done for the game? Was that like a simple audition, or did that something happened behind the scenes that you kind of remember?
You know, it was I was sure I didn't get it. Because we sent in our audition tapes, and usually in acting, this is a normal thing. You do an audition tape, and then like a week later, 2 weeks later, at the latest, you'll hear back. But this was my first time trying out for a video game. And it was really one of my first times using my Italian accent in English. And so I submitted the tape and I didn't hear back for months. So I was like, okay, I didn't get it. And secretly I was like, I think my Italian accent might be really bad in English. Like I think I might just have do a really bad job with an Italian accent. I don't know. But I didn't get a call back, so obviously it must not be very good. And then like a couple months passed and I got a call back for it. They wanted me to do a chemistry read with Ricardo, who had already been cast as Enzo. And when they told me that I got a call back, I couldn't even remember what the project was because I had auditioned for it so long ago.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. When you got to know, like, okay, you got cast into this role in a video game, what were kind of like your thoughts at this point in time? Like, do you think video game acting in a different way, or at this point you're like, this is great, I'm gonna give whatever I can for this project?
I was so excited about it. And I was also a little intimidated because it is a different skill. It's a very difficult form of acting. And I did not know that it would be as challenging as it was. When I found out that I was cast, I was really genuinely just so excited. It's also rare that you get to be part of a project for an extended period of time. And I knew that this would be a long-term thing. So that's just such a gift because you get to become friends with all of the crew, all of the cast, and there's a longevity in it that most acting roles don't have. Just really, really wonderful.
That's great. And like you mentioned about like how different it is, like what do you find different about this role specifically? Because it's very, as you said, like there's no set, there's all imagination in your head, and you just have an actor in front of you, multiple actors in front of you, but nothing is really there. So you are imagining differently as compared to how your partner might be, imagining. So how different was it for you compared to everything else that you have done?
It is incredibly difficult from the standpoint of imaginative work. Your imagination has to be working overtime. And on top of that, you have to have a very strong ability to suspend disbelief, which means like you have to ignore all the things that your brain and your eyes are seeing that are telling you that it's not real. Like you have the headset with the camera pointing back at you, literally in front of your face. And then you have like, if you were Enzo, for example, you would also have the headset in front of your face. So I would have to be communicating with you and ignoring all of the reality that my eyes can clearly see. And on top of that, you have to construct with your imagination the hot summer day, the birds chirping, the grass under your feet, like the heavy dress that you're wearing, and the fact that you have to be quiet because on the other side of the wall, Tino might be lurking or something. You have to really like consider the circumstances and internalize all of that. And then on top of that, pretend like what you see is not real or relevant or existent. It's a lot of like, it's acting in a very difficult circumstance.
Do you have like a memory, like any of the moments, any of the scenes that when you're shooting, it's amazing for you to just like shoot it, and even though maybe in the game's world, like the final scene, it's different, but when you're shooting it, you had the best time?
The memories that I have of moments like that are mostly when like people were messing with me or us, and they're outside the scene and they're just like messing with you. One was when Enzo and Isabella are at Luca's grave, and
Wow.
they have a conversation about they're having a very like quiet conversation because they're technically in the they can be seen, about their future together and about escaping. And so it's very high stakes, very important. And they're looking at Luca's grave, which is very sad and somber and serious. But the crew had taped Alberto's headshot, like his real life acting headshot, to the gravestone. So that so it was designated as Luca's headstone, but then it was just Alberto like smoldering at the camera in his headshot. And it was just like, every time I looked at the grave, I was like, don't crack. It's so funny. It's a great headshot, but it's like,
yeah.
So,
Yeah, that's the Luca I remember. Yeah. My goodness.
Yeah.
I cannot believe
there's one other memory I have like that, and it's we actually filmed the intro when Isabella's walking down the stairs for her birthday. We filmed that at the very end, and it's this like moment where Isabella and Enzo lock eyes, and she recognizes him and he recognizes her, and it's kind of like a love at first sight sort of a thing. And they were filming my bits, and every time I like made eye contact with Ricardo, he would make a stupid face and just make it like very difficult for me to do my job.
Fun times. That's great. Oh my goodness.
Very, very fun. Yeah.
That's so cool. And like, I'm curious to know, like, how familiar are you with video games? Like, did you play video games at any point in time? Do you still play video games, or is that kind of like a little bit, you're far away from it?
I'm starting to be really enamored with gaming culture now, but it's never really been part of my life. I played like Sims growing up. I loved Sims, Roller Coaster Tycoon, and like Animal Crossing. But that doesn't make me a cool gamer.
I mean, I think everybody at quarantine time played a lot of Animal Crossing. I've heard that like everybody was playing that when 2020, 2021, everybody was on that. So, you still are pretty much a gamer to me.
The curve. Listen, I was way ahead of the curve on that one. I called it. Long-term fan here.
Wow. That's amazing. Do you like look at games now and wonder like, oh, maybe I would try to play that or at least get to know their story?
Yes, I have never been. I didn't even know that this whole world existed, and I have so much respect for it now. So like when people tell me, oh, you have to play this game, or you have to watch someone play this game, the story is incredible. I'm curious about the actors. Like, I'm curious about the storytelling, and I'm curious about the actor experience, because like knowing firsthand how affecting a story like that can be, especially when you get to partake as a player, it's exciting that there's a whole world that I have yet to discover. Many worlds I have yet to discover.
That's good. Do you have like a set of games, or did anybody recommend it you, like this game, like 5 people have said to you about this one game that you must see?
Expedition 33.
Yes, definitely.
I cannot wait. I honestly think I'm just going to watch the gameplay on YouTube or something, because I've heard that it's incredible.
It is, yeah. I don't want to say anything, but yeah, it is an incredible one. I want to keep you like far away from any even spoilery on how I even feel about the game. It's a great game.
Okay.
That's all I'm going to say, because it is a game that I never expected it to be that kind. So it is that kind. When you've got the role and when you see this character and how she is, like, what were your kind of initial thoughts about the character itself and how her kind of story is progressing? And like, I'm assuming initially you didn't know fully on how her story is going to be. So like, what were your thoughts initially?
You know what? It's interesting because not only did I get a very limited, the script hadn't been written yet. The entire script was not written. So the whole of the character did not yet exist. And this was one of those privileged positions where the writers actually wrote according to who they cast. me playing Isabella a certain way informed the way they wrote the rest of the story, which was amazing. The impression that I got from like the limited amount of script that I got initially, I got a version of the scene I auditioned with was a version of the Baron Fontanella's son when he comes to take Isabella to the ruins and he can't get the car started. It was a version of that scene with just two characters. And immediately from that scene, I could tell that she was a little bit saucy. Like it was clear to me that she was kind of making fun of this other person. And in that scene, I didn't get any context for who the other character was. I just kind of perceived that she was kind of teasing the other person. And so I actually had one of my dad's vintage cameras and I used it as a prop. And something that the director, Dara, later told me stood out to him in that self-tape was that I used the camera to kind of like take pictures of the other person struggling to get the car started as a way to kind of like make fun of them and like laugh on my own about how stupid he looks.
Wow.
And apparently that like really stood out because it wasn't in the script. I just kind of added it because I thought it felt right. And it was right. I was
Wow.
really proud of that. And yeah.
That's amazing. And I remember like you probably have in one live stream that I was looking at, and you were mentioning that one of the scenes is where Enzo is having these bottles he's gonna deliver somewhere, and you like Isabella like touch him from the back and try to get his attention. And I remember you mentioned in the live stream that it was kind of like your contribution on how you want her to move, and so that was pretty cool too. Yeah.
It, I'm telling you, like the set culture was so collaborative and creatively open. Usually on a set, I would never overstep and tell the videographer or the director how to set up a shot. But in this case, we were shooting that specific shot on a handheld camera that the camera operator like has on his shoulders, and he has to physically move around the actors. And so none of that is like, it's usually decided on the spot which angle and like what the movement is going to look like. And so we block it out altogether. And so it's a collaborative thing. And I kind of just pitched this. I was like, what if, we do it and all you can see is Enzo because you have no idea that I'm going to show up in this scene. And then I kind of just like pop up behind him. And I think this is kind of the dance element too, where like the mystery of just seeing an arm before you have the context of another person being there is very mysterious and interesting. And I was like, I'll just pitch it, and if they hate it, that's fine. Like, that's cool. But they didn't hate it. They kept it and they used it.
I also love the way how like friendly she is in that scene. Like she is like moving around like this, and she's just like super friendly and super like wants to interact with Enzo. And I just love that moment and how kind of childish in a way, kind of friendly. I love that kind of moment, and I was like, I can see where this is going.
It's a coming of age story for both of them. And so to me, because she was so sheltered her whole life, she's not oblivious and she's not completely naive, but she is a child because she's been like sheltered and protected even against her will. And so I think like that excitement is something that I still relate to. Like I still feel a childish excitement on a pretty regular basis. And so to me, that's kind of where like that came from. Like a genuine kind of like giddy, childish.
So many scenes in this game that I mentioned this one in particular, which is so childish, and I love this love story that we all see. I think that's the highlight of this game. This very sweet, romantic love story that we want to see a happy ending of, and we want to root for these characters from the very beginning. And so this one of the scenes that I actually want to show you is the scene where we first see Isabella for the first time. Like Enzo sees it for the first time. We all see her for the very first time.
Who are you?
Sono Enzo. I work here. For now.
You have not always been a stable hand.
No.
Well, we do not always get to choose what we do.
Suppose not. But we can choose who we are.
We can.
The moment she comes in, she is already friendly with Enzo. And in some ways, she wants, like, kind of getting his attention at the same time and just being very friendly. Like, what do you think about this very kind of first interaction of Isabella with Enzo? She sees Enzo for the first time. What she's thinking.
I love this scene. I love the way they wrote this scene. It's important because it's very subtle, but it does foreshadow the entire story. And in their very first interaction, they're already addressing the reason they fall in love with one another, and also the thing that keeps them apart ultimately, which is you don't get to choose what we do or who we are. We don't get to choose. Essentially, we don't get to choose who we are, but we do get to choose the choices we make. We do get to choose what we do. And the reason the Don doesn't approve of Enzo is because no matter what he does, no matter how good a job he does on behalf of who he is not good enough. And to Isabella, no matter, what life you're born into, the choices you make do define who you are. So even though, even if she is born into a mafia crime family, the choices she makes, if she chooses a path of righteousness, then those choices define her rather than, the life she was born into. And so she believes differently from her father. And in that very first interaction with Enzo, the reason they're perfect for one another is because they both believe that their circumstances don't define them. It's so beautiful. And also the way that they subtly included Enzo's scars, the scars on his arms from the mine. And she sees it right away. And she sees oh, you come from a very dark place, literally and figuratively. And she still loves him, even though she knows that immediately.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, she likes him regardless of where he's from and what he has done, I suppose. And even though he's like a minor, she's still very much interested in who he is and wants to know him, wants to get along with him. So I like that fact, and the fact that she was ready to at least be friends, let's just say, in the very beginning, and it just
totally
blossoms from there. It's just so lovely. I'm curious about with that scene itself. You have these apples, at least in the scenes where you're seeing apples, and I'm wondering, are those apples in real life? What are you eating? Are you eating anything at this time?
No, you know what? They gave me, so we shot it in two different setups. The one setup was the establishing shot, and I had a wooden circle sort of a thing. It wasn't a real basket. It was just a piece of wood. And then a wooden apple that was balanced on top that I could pick up and hold. And so we shot, and then I had to pretend to take a bite and offer the apple. But then we did a second setup where they actually found me a real apple so that they could do my face eating the apple. It's crazy what they can do. It's amazing. They're brilliant. But yeah, it is weird to have to pretend to be totally in the scene and do a great job and then pretend to eat a wooden apple, even though your brain is this is ridiculous, In the name day ceremony, when Isabel comes down the stairs on her birthday, she has to drink from a glass of wine. They do a toast and then they all drink, and they do a close-up on Isabella. They do a close-up on me while I'm drinking. And when we were filming that shot, they were like, "Why are your eyes closed?" And I was like, "Because people close their eyes when they drink." And they were like, no. And I was like, but what do you look at if you keep your eyes open? It was a whole thing. And then no one could remember what it was like to like what do you do with your eyes when you're authentically drinking from a glass of wine? No one could remember. So we just did a couple different versions.
Wow.
It's like, I don't know. What am I supposed to look at when I drink wine?
Did people at the time, like in the set, like, okay, drink like a glass of water, we're gonna see what you do with your eyes, and like 5 people were drinking water just to see what they're doing with. Did that happen at that time?
We did do a group poll, and people were like, wait. I think the ultimate verdict was like eyes halfway closed.
Okay.
Eyes halfway closed to indicate enjoyment.
All right. Well, it's good to learn new things. One of the things like we always explore in this game is like the relationship obviously with Enzo and Isabella. What do you think about this relationship in the very like, from the get go? Like a very good formation throughout the story, and it's not a love story where it feels like it just happened quickly or all of a sudden, or like it's a very well built love story. What are your thoughts on this story in general between Enzo and Isabella?
I think it's oh, I don't know if this is true for everyone, but it's certainly the kind of love that I would hope for. In the sense that they their priorities align, which is indicated by the very first conversation they have, in that like it doesn't matter who you are so much as what you choose to do with your life. And then also when they encounter difficulty, she confronts him in the wine cellar, and she basically is like, you cannot do anything for Luca anymore. He's dead, and you will go the same route if you continue to make these choices. And he is stuck between choosing his career and esteem and fatherly approval and potentially the permission to marry Isabella. And he's stuck between that and then just choosing Isabella properly and risking everything to be with her and to save his own life by, not doing the crimes. And she obviously makes it clear that like he is misguided in chasing her father's approval. And in that moment, he still chooses to pursue her father's approval, which is not the right choice. But then he changes his mind and he adjusts course and he does choose her fully. And that is the kind of thing that I hope for in like a love, for it to be clear that this is the person that you cannot live without. And so nothing, not even like financial security or career success, will compare to losing this person.
That's true. It's crazy. That's the feeling that I'm always thinking about, like, oh, that's the feeling a video game gave me. And it's just a video game story gave me. And this is something that is profound for me. I'm like, oh, video games. And I don't know, like, about you, like how you think about video games when that word comes to your mind. Like, do you probably might relate to like, oh, racing or fighting, like shooting. But when it comes to fantasy, and like when it comes to these games, like there's these stories where you feel for these characters and then you relate as an individual, as a human being, you start relating to these characters. It's profound, and I love the fact that this game was able to give that to me and a lot of people.
I totally agree. I think that's the most important element of storytelling in any medium. Right. The reason it's powerful and the reason it's important is because of the human element, is because it connects us as humans. And no matter whether you're playing as like a bionic raccoon or a member of the Mafia, the Cosa Nostra from the year 1905. There are fundamental human elements that cut to our core, that are universally true and unite all of us. And that's what makes us feel less alone. That's what gives us hope. That's what makes these stories worth listening to and worth participating in.
Various cutscenes, you have moments where you're kissing Enzo, and I'm curious, how hard is it for you guys to do that, because you have a thing in front of you, you cannot really physically go that far, so what happens during those scenes?
It's so silly. It's so silly. It's like you are trying to have this intimate romantic moment and then you're like knocking headgear. It's like, it's so goofy. But we had like the best time, it's just like fun and silly. It was the same kind of thing where they do it in two different setups. So they do the overall establishing physical shot with the headgear in one, where we just kind of like mime the kiss, and we don't actually make physical contact. We just kind of like imagine what it would be like if we were making physical contact, but we don't. And then the second version is with the handheld camera, and it's like closer up, and we take the headgear off, and then we can actually just embrace. And then they use like an intercut of the two different types of footage. But yeah, the one with the headgear on is like just goofy.
Yeah, that's romantic. Yeah, that's the best way to have a romantic scene, when you're literally knocking helmets. It's amazing. Yeah. I mean, you have to see those behind the scenes, like videos, if somebody can post them.
You can. So I will kind of leak this. They, in the birthday scene in the name day ceremony, when Johnny and Isabella, when the Don and Isabella do their like bacio, right. They didn't do the intercut. They just did the overall establishing shot. So you can kind of see that the characters are like really moving, like with a wide berth, and they like really try to carefully kiss each other on the cheek. That's why, because we only had the shot with the camera pointing back, and so we were like trying to avoid each other's, That's why I feel like that one, you can kind of tell that they're like,
Yeah. Another scene that I would like to show you, there's so many scenes that I love, and so many interactions, and one of them is Tino's. I love how we get to know about Tino and how she is not a fan of Tino, which nobody is. And so I want to show you one of the scenes, which I really like. And it's kind of like early in, I think it's the garden scene, where she calls Enzo, like, hey, come to the garden.
I have to be careful and work hard. Your father is who he is.
And who are you, Enzo? Does my father already control your life? I'm sorry.
Hey. What are you doing?
Looking for Luca.
I don't see you. Sticking around where you don't belong will be the last thing you do. Capisti? Your father is looking for you. And you're not a paisana dragged up outside. Put on your shoes.
What do you kind of remember about like Tino and the actor behind, obviously Tino, you work with him, and I love how he is that character who I would hate in many ways.
He's amazing. He's a really phenomenal actor. Let's see. So fun thing about that scene is initially she like picked her shoes up and threw them over the wall or something, just as like a sort of like an FU. After he's like, put your shoes on, you're not a paisana. She like throws them over the wall, just kind of like to shove it to him, basically. But they took that out because they thought it was too saucy.
That needs to be in the game now.
She's just like kicking over the shoes. But he's wonderful. He's like, we're just a very unlikely pair of friends, the two of us. Um, yeah, like when we were over in Brno, he like invited me to go get funnel cakes with him, and we like went and got ice cream and funnel cakes. He can eat like crazy. It's very impressive. But we work well together, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
It's so amazing to see how, especially towards the end, like we get to even get more angry with Tino and what he does, and with Isabella, and how we kind of like as a player we get to play that moment and get to be in that moment. And yeah, just this character and how he is, and just in general how he kind of behaves with Isabella. We can see like, okay, he is just going with has that mindset as Don has, like how he's having that mindset of controlling everybody. Tina also has that kind of like the same mindset, and she wants to get free of this. And Enzo also realizes that, and so it's just, you can read all of this with scenes like these, and I just love those aspects of it. Like, okay, these are character building moments, and so it's really cool with the story that we get to see.
Yeah, I agree. I'm so glad that I got to do those scenes with him. Some of my hardest scenes and my favorite scenes are with him. And he's such a phenomenal actor. He really sinks so deep into his role that it makes it very easy to act with him, because there's no, like, once he's in that role, the friendship that you have in real life is gone. Like, there's no, in the scene where he comes to grab Isabella from her room, there's no mercy anymore. There's no familial love there. There's only like hatred, really. And it just was such a gift to get to do that scene with him. Because I knew there was nothing I could do that would scare him or make him uncomfortable, or like, yeah, it was like an iron sharpening iron kind of thing. Like, the scarier he was, the better a job I could do, you know?
Yeah.
So I was really glad I got to do it with him.
Yeah, it's like one of my favorite scenes as well, and I actually want to show you that scene. It would be great to see that scene right now, because I love that scene so much that I was like, oh my god, this is, I feel so bad for Isabella right now, and I wish there was somebody else to help her, but she helped herself in some ways.
Tino, you can't do this. Tino, I am begging you, please. You're heartless, why?
You dishonored your father. You shamed this family.
Vaffanculo!
I think that's such a powerful and strong scene for her. She's like, you're getting like completely emotional in that moment, frustration, obviously. And so I'm curious, like how, like, what was it to shoot that particular scene that day? Like, how did you feel at that time? Like, what went into getting that scene kind of done?
Oh my gosh, this was one of my favorite days on set, and it was really hard and intimidating too, because I have so much to say about this. I could kind of tell. So the writers really took a big chance on me, because they hadn't seen me do any like really heavy lifting as an actor like this. They'd only seen me do like the fun, flirty, sassy scenes. And so they really had a lot of faith in me in giving me this kind of material. And they'd never seen me do anything like it before. So you could tell that the director was kind of like, okay, so we're gonna do it. Like, let's do our best. Like, he just didn't know what it was gonna be like. And I think they didn't know that, like, this is my bread and butter. Like, I love gritty, heartbreaking content like this, storytelling like this. I don't know why, but it feels very close to my heart, and like it comes relatively easily to me. But for an actor, like when you're given a script like this, it can be very intimidating where you're like, it wasn't written that she was crying, but maybe it was, I don't remember. But you can tell that she's probably supposed to be crying. So in your head, you're like, oh my God, I have to do a scene where I cry. And like, what if I don't feel sad or something? So that can be intimidating, but you kind of have to just set the expectations completely to the side, and you have to think about the circumstances. And in this scene, it is so well written that it was really so easy to do. Like, if you think about the situation that she's in, how can you not have a panic attack and like start to cry, you know? In that scene, her father is potentially killing Enzo. Like, she doesn't know what's happening to Enzo. She's been separated from him. What she does know is that she's alone with Tino, and they know she's pregnant, and they're going to take her to go get an abortion. And at that time in Sicily in the 1900s, not only was it like sacrilege, like not only would that, like, was it an incredible sin to abort a child, but it was also extremely dangerous, like unsanitary. No matter how good the doctor was, like the survival rate was not very high for young women having to experience abortions. So she was basically begging for her own life and the life of her child, and she's begging from Tino. And she doesn't know how far Tino is willing to go. So like since Tino could kill her, like Tino could not only just like hurt her, throw her across the room, like he can do whatever he wants to her, because like they're stuck alone together. She's completely at his mercy, and that's why she's begging on her knees on behalf of, like, as my uncle, if you have any love for me, please save my life. And he doesn't spit in her face, but he basically spits in her face and is like, I don't care if you die. And that kind of abandonment is like, it's horrifying. Like it's the end of the world. So we only did that, like, I think we did two takes, or I think we used the first take that we did, but I think we did 2 takes. And it was so easy. It was great. Yeah, I was surprised they switched. At first it was a locket that she has from Enzo. She has, like, I think it was maybe her mother's locket, and there's a picture of Enzo inside. I think that's what it was when we filmed. And they switched it to the little toy, which is lovely because it's the toy that he has. It's just like the toy that he has from his parents in the mine. And then it becomes the only thing that she has left of him, which is poetic and sad.
Yeah, it's overall, I just like that whole part, and after that, it just the whole thing becomes incredibly sad, and I'm like, oh, I wish I could help her at that time. And like you mentioned, like, okay, Tino could do anything, and I was wondering, like, okay, she could have done this and this. She could have probably, done something else to Tino when he's there. But you're right, like Tino could have done anything, and so it's good, like, she didn't take that extra step of like trying to do anything else to him.
It's very good writing because it makes sense. Exactly. I don't want to like get too dark, but like in that scene, I don't think Tino would have killed her because her father would have killed Tino if he killed her. Like Tino can't kill Isabella because of the Dawn, but he can do a lot of things short of killing her. And that's very scary for like a young woman alone. Also, she's never killed anyone at that, up to that point. Like, she's never killed anyone or taken a knife to anyone, or had to fight anyone in that way. So it makes sense that that's not her first instinct. It makes sense that she's very reluctant to like cross over into violence.
Yeah, it's crazy. I just like it's crazy to see the story. And with that scene, there's one thing that came into my mind is like when like towards the end of that scene where you have like trying to put a chair in front of the door, and I like how you put the chair and then you readjusted that chair to make sure that it fits in the handle. And I'm curious, like,
I
was
can't
that
believe that. That was actually me, and they were like unsure about it. They checked on it because they were like, does that look like she's incompetent? Does it look like she's struggling? In reality, it was that because we were just leaning a prop chair against like a prop wall,
Yeah.
and there was nothing to kind of like hold it in place. So it was kind of difficult to do. So I felt like it was going to fall. So I went and I readjusted it. But it works because like that, it is a realistic thing to do in that scenario. And I'm really glad that they kept it because I agree. Thank you for noticing the details. That's so
yes.
cool.
I love that. I thought like that's that, like I mentioned, like that's something that is more realistic, especially because you are in a sort of in a hurry. You're panicking, so you put something up, but then you realize like oh shit, like I have to make sure that this actually works what I'm doing. So readjusting it and
Yes.
quickly going. So like I noticed that like okay, yeah, that would have not been done in other probably games. I'm I could be wrong here, but is not really done as much. But I like to see those very small details because that adds on a lot.
Oh my gosh, I totally agree. I love doing scenes like this because when your mind is really in the scenario, your body physically believes that it's true. Like if you will yourself to believe that you're in danger, then your body begins to react, and the line between reality and acting begins to blur. And so in that moment, like my hands were legitimately shaking and like my body was like really vibrating. And so it becomes difficult to do things like lean a chair against a wall and keep it from falling, which is realistic. And like I just think that's my favorite thing because it's so close to being real, but you're still safe, It's cool.
Definitely. I love that. It's really cool. And it's very sad to see how Isabella's kind of story ends because Enzo's no more. She doesn't even know who killed Enzo, and so it's just like it's a heartbreaking moment. And I'm curious to know from you, as a person like who has played this character, what do you think? How her life is going to continue onwards from here?
I spend a lot of time thinking about this because that final scene is like at the end of her journey across the Atlantic. And so in real life, like she would have been on that ship for 1 to 2 weeks having to process everything that she's running away from, potentially like fear that someone has followed her or that someone will recognize her and like hold her accountable for having murdered several people. There's like the sanitary conditions on ships like that were not very good, depending on what class you were, depending on what you could afford. The food wasn't great. There was a lot of illness, like people died on those voyages. So just like having all that in mind and then also considering like what was potentially to come. I think for immigrants in that time period, the American dream was very much alive. So New York City was a very hopeful place, despite maybe like the very the less glamorous reality that awaited them. There was a lot of racism against Italians at the time. They weren't even considered, white in that time period. Racism is ridiculous. Anyway, but it was very difficult for them to find jobs. They were considered dirty. They were considered like, infectious, all these things. So if you really think about like what was realistically waiting for her, it was a very hard life. Like as a single woman who's pregnant, I think she probably would have found community in Little Italy and the Italian culture that was, like really taking root in New York. I think she would have found safety and community there, but I think it would have been very difficult and like she would have been working for the rest of her life, probably.
Yeah.
Um,
And I feel like I'm assuming the answer would be kind of yes, but like, would you like, if there was a way somehow, like there's more to her story, like I'm assuming that you would love to see like what happens next for her.
I mean, I've, she, I still feel so close to her. So I, I never want to put her down, you know, like I think she will always be alive to me. And so I do think about like what her life would look like and how she would filter into the Mafia saga. Um, but I that's as much as I know. As much as I know is imagination. You know, that's all I got. So we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, love to see more of Isabella. That'd be great. And like with, as you
Yeah,
mentioned, like
definitely.
of course, and you mentioned like you like this character is still with you, and you have given so much time to this character, and in some ways the character has learned a lot from you. Is there anything that you have learned from this character?
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, it's a coming of age story for both Isabella and Enzo. I think the way that the way like her final moment of really growing up, I think is not just when she like physically takes what she wants and fights for her freedom, but then also when she chooses to set down the heartbreak of reading Enzo's letter and she kind of looks at the sky and the clouds part and the sun kisses her cheeks. She kind of chooses to set down the grief and choose hope instead. And that to me is like the greatest form of strength. Um, and that's something that I really deeply admire and want to embody in my own life also is to like be able to catalyze difficult situations and grief and hardship and then be able to turn it into something that is hopeful. I think that's probably the most powerful thing in the world. So to be able to be strong enough to do that is the hope, ironically.
Yeah, I think in one of the like interviews you mentioned like, and you mentioned something like, and I quote here, like, even in dark moments I try to orient towards light, is something that you mentioned in an interview, where somebody asked you if there was a book that could have been written, what it would be, and you kind of mentioned that, and how flowers or plants basically when they're in a darker space they turn around towards the windows looking for light. And so I'm like, it there's so much parallel here.
And I can't believe you remember that. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I find that parallel with you and Isabella, because as you said, in the end she does exactly the same kind of thing.
Wow, you're amazing.
Oh, thank you.
That's so insightful. I I love, you know, I love that they added because when we were filming that scene, I didn't have any context as to like what the weather was like or what the sunlight would be like. Um, and I think maybe in the script they included like the clouds part and the sun comes out and she can see the the city skyline in the distance for the first time. I think that's what was written in the script, and so I tried to, uh, yeah, I to me like in my real life, I like my form of spirituality, I do find solace in nature. Um, and that's why I love this metaphor of the plants. Um, I do find solace in nature. So, like the idea that the sun would come out when I need hope most, that feels divine to me. Like that feels like a gift. And so, in that scene, she kind of like closes her eyes and looks up and then kind of like tilts her head. And it feels in that moment, it felt to me like she was being comforted. Like she was being comforted by the sun on her cheeks, and that was what was giving her strength to open her eyes. And then there was the skyline, and that's like, okay, we're going to keep moving forward. And again, that's like total credit to the writers and also the storytellers in post who were able to like create the sunshine from nothing and create, the weather and the haze and the fog. And they made it make sense, but it's really a team effort between the writers and the actor and then everyone who creates the visuals and the music, obviously, all of it.
The design of the character, the look of the character, the clothing, like what was your reaction when you first saw her and how she looks like and like what era you are in? Like what was it like?
Oh my gosh, I love her. I think she's so cool and like stylish. The first sketch I ever saw of her was the outfit where she's got the apple, like the stable outfit, where she's got like the cool pants and the riding boots and the green bandana. And I was like, oh my God, I dress like this. I own these pieces. Like I love the way she looks. Like I want to dress like this all the time. I think she's so cool, and I love like her hairstyle too.
Yeah, I love that.
I'm probably gonna keep my hairstyle, but if I had to change it, I would totally try that. I think she looks so cool. My favorite character embellishment is for Luca, though. They gave Alberto the best mustache. It's so cool. And they have like the designers had lots of different versions of him like as options, and most of them didn't have a mustache. And they picked the one with the mustache, and I think it's so good. I keep being like, hey, Alberto, everyone loves the mustache. You should just go for it. Like, what are you waiting for? But
oh my God.
To each his own.
That's great. I cannot imagine Luca without a mustache. Like that would be, I don't know, like it's a curse. Like how can you?
Who is he?
Do you think like you would be trying this game at any point? Like would you be playing yourself like with the controller in your hand?
I did do controller in hand for like a solid 5 minutes. Okay. I think I was exclusively running around. I don't think I was doing anything. And you know what? It's hard. It's really impressive that people are so good at this game, because I think a lot of people were like, the knife fighting isn't challenging enough. And I was like, listen, I can't even figure out how to draw my knife. So
yeah, which button is it again? Yeah.
There are a lot of buttons.
There are.
And for someone who's not used to like first person combat games, I'm like, this, I don't speak this language yet. Like this is not part of my skill set. But I really enjoy watching people play it because they make it look really easy.
Well, thank you so much, Carina, for taking the time today, really talking about all of this and explaining in detail what happens behind the scenes.
Thank you so much for your thoughtful questions. I really enjoyed our conversation. But I really enjoy watching people play it because they make it look really easy.
Well, thank you so much, Carina, for taking the time today, really talking about all of this and explaining in detail what happens behind the scenes.
Thank you so much for your thoughtful questions. I really enjoyed our conversation.